It is the soldier, not the
who
reporter.
has given us the freedom of the press.
It is the soldier, not the poet.
who has given us the freedom of speech.
It is the soldier, not the
Organizer who gave us the freedom to demonstrate.
It is the soldier who salutes the flag,
who serves beneath the flag,
And whose coffin is draped by the flag.
Who allows the protester to burn the flag.
Words by Father Dennis Edward O'Brien, United States Marine Corps.
What's your name?
Paul Graham.
What branch of force were you in?
I was in the Army and then Army Reserves.
What were your date of service?
August of '89 until 2014.
And what were your dates of service?
November 73 to November of 93.
What branch did you serve in?
The United States Army.
What were the dates of service?
June 1973 through June 2003. I spent 30 years in the service, 4 years active and 26 years in the Army Reserves.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I actually went through college on the ROTC scholarship program, and I received my commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army when I graduated.
I was in the U.S. Navy for 8 years.
What were your dates of service?
May 2007 to summer of 2015.
Were you drafted or enlisted?
I was drafted.
What were your dates of service?
February 10th, 1953 to later part of January in 1955. I was drafted during the Korean War, and then I took basic training, wheeled vehicle and track vehicle, and the war was over in July of 1953, and I arrived in Korea 3 months later in October of 1953.
what branch of the service were you in?
The Air Force.
And what were your dates of service?
March 4th, 66 to February 4th of 70.
Okay, what branch of service were you in?
United States Army.
And what were your dates of service?
I entered service officially on May 24th of 1970 and ETS from the military for the last time because I'd gone into the Guard and the Reserves through the period in May of 1977.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Why did you join?
First off, my brother was a colonel in the Air Force, so we had a little bit of experience with the military, and I always thought the military would be something that I would want to go into. I had a lot of friends that were in the military, and I had started being a competitive shooter at the time, and of course in the 70s the military was where you went if you were going to be a competitive shooter, so that's why I chose that.
Since August, 10 Hamilton County veterans have been paired with 10 Aurora High School American History students to be the first members of the AHS Heroes and Huskies project. The twofold purpose of this project was first to create a sense of community between students and those who have served not only our community but our country. Secondly, we wanted to start a Veterans History Library. Throughout the project, students interviewed and created a video about their veterans' time in the military.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
Well, I was enlisted.
How old were you when you enlisted?
19.
And you were drafted or enlisted?
Enlisted.
Why did you enlist?
For law enforcement training and medical reasons for the family. I turned 30 in basic training. I was 29 when I enlisted.
Why did you join?
Well, at the time it was either drafted or enlist, and so I enlisted in the service. So I was interested in aircraft and stuff, so I joined the Air Force for see if I could get into air mechanics, which I did.
And then I went to my first dive locker, which was at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Washington. So there we did a lot of underwater maintenance and on ships and submarines in the Navy. So I became really good at working on stuff underwater, essentially. So we were doing underwater welding, underwater cutting with a Broco torch, just basically anything that needed fixed on a ship or submarine, we attempted to do it in the water so that they didn't have to dry it out.
Out on patrol, we had just gone to sea, and after only about a week, we were ordered back to Holy Lock. We came back at night, tied up next to the tender. The mission that we'd been assigned was under a cloud of secrecy. They took off 4 of our nuclear missiles, and they loaded in 4 dummy missiles that did not have warheads. And about the next day, we left again under the cover of darkness and went to sea.
I interviewed Ronald Elge, and he was in the U.S. Army, and he was drafted in January 1964 to January 1966. How old were you when you were drafted?
22. I felt at the time that we had a definite mission. It was important that we were there to help the South Vietnamese and to keep the spread of communism in that part of the world.
See the Purple Heart for wounds suffered June 7th, 1968.
After the first meeting of the Heroes and Huskies, we knew this had the potential to be a great project. Just listening to the veterans talk for a minute during their introductions, we could have listened to their stories all day. When you have the chance to listen to a veteran's story, take advantage of the opportunity. You will learn so much and leave with the utmost respect for those who have served and are currently serving. It was an honor and a privilege to not only be a part of this project, but to be able to share this with my dad. It was a great experience to visit Washington, D.C., and especially the Vietnam Memorial with you and the rest of the Heroes and Huskies group.
Thank you, Paul, for your service.
Thank you, Rex, for your service.
Thank you, Paul, for your service.
Thank you, Derek, for your service. Thank you, Harlan, for your service.
Thank you, Dick, for your service.
Thank you, Rich, for your service.
Thank you, Dwight, for your service.
Thank you, Alan, for your service.
Thank you, Ron, for your service.
To all U.S. military,
Personnel and veterans, thank you for your service.